You are considering a move to the Portland and Vancouver area, and you are looking for a detailed explanation of the weather. You have heard it rains here all the time. Well, that's just not true. I kind of feel like it's redundant to keep talking about weather on every one of my videos, and I really don't have time to do it justice or to go into great detail about the weather. So in this video, I will go into detail about the weather here in the Portland-Vancouver area, month by month, season by season, the whole year round. This pertains to all communities that I feature. In the north, Ridgefield, Washington, to the south in Wilsonville, Oregon. You know, my 60 years here, I was born in Astoria, Oregon, far exceeds the knowledge that anybody could gain here in a few short years. Case in point, Tom McCall, the Oregon governor from 1967 to 1975, used to say, "Don't Californiate Oregon." Let's watch a short commercial that aired in 1975. Run the B-roll.
Plants, small trees, citrus fruit, or beer.
Visitors are often surprised by the loyalty Oregon people have for their local beer.
Beer? Yes. Oregon, sir, is the home of Blitz Weinhardt.
It's not just that Blitz is Oregon's own brewery.
Blitz Weinhardt.
It's also that our beer is brewed naturally, the way beer is supposed to be brewed.
Naturally brewed, no monkey business. We don't encourage other beers. They might contain artificial substances, eh?
It was in the trunk.
Oh. Well, we won't worry about it. It's only a misdemeanor. Have a good visit to Oregon, sir.
So it's no wonder people like visiting Oregon.
Oh, I'm not visiting. I'm a developer from California, and I'm moving up here.
We still have natural country.
That is a felony.
And we still have natural beer.
The best country in the country.
Any plants, small trees, citrus fruit, or beer.
And the country's best beer.
And by the way, Governor Tom McCall signed my driver's education certificate in 1975, and I still have that. Well, the days portrayed in that commercial are long gone, and if Governor Tom McCall were still alive, he would probably be calling me and wringing my neck. But 70% of my YouTube business comes from California, and I actually love it. But remember, you have to text or call me to start your own moving experience. My contact information is shown below each video in the Show More section. Okay, coming up here, I'm going to talk about what our normal weather is like season by season, and also the extremes we have here, the weird weather. We tend to borrow weather from all over the hemisphere, really. We get cool, cold weather from Canada. We get wet, moderately warm weather from the Pacific Ocean. And from the south and the east, we get heat. Generally speaking, we have a mild climate here year-round, meaning we don't have snowy weather and icy roads all winter long like they do in Idaho or Montana, and we don't have hot summers like they do in the desert region. So since we're in summer right now, this video is being recorded on July 17th. We actually get very little rain here in the summer. We generally have 60 consecutive days of no rainfall, and our record is 71 days. Average daytime temperature, 82. Nighttime, 60. So let's start with June. June can be a transition month from spring to summer. We cycle between warm and dry, very nice weather, generally in the 70s, to cooler and wet, temperatures in the 50s and 60s and rain. But as we progress through June, the rain becomes less frequent. July and August historically are our driest months. And according to the National Weather Service, the last week of July and the first week of August historically are the driest of the year. By September, the nighttime temperatures start falling, and we may see a night or two below 50 degrees at night, even though the daytime temperatures can still be very pleasant in the 70s and the 80s. September also begins to become a little more variable in weather. We start to see some days of light rain and thunderstorms. October is another transition month from really summer into fall. This is what we call our Indian summer, and this can extend into early November. But evenings this time of year, even if it's 75 degrees, cool off quickly. And so In the evening, you may need a sweatshirt or a jacket or be next to a fire ring to stay comfortably warm. So now let's talk about the weird weather of the summer. The extreme we see in the summer is hot weather. A few weeks ago, we had our highest temperature ever at the Portland International Airport of 117 degrees. But there are portions in British Columbia, Canada that were over 100, and these are the hottest temperatures ever recorded in Canada, in the entire country. So this was a weird event, but the whole region was hot. But the weird thing is the heat centered over us, and we were warmer than it was in Palm Springs. Our old record 20 years ago was 107, so we beat that by 10 degrees. But generally speaking, the days over 90 in Portland are limited to about 5 days a year. It ramps up into the 90s or even we pushing 100 degrees, and a week later or less, we are back to our regularly scheduled weather of the mid-80s. November is the start of our rainy season. 5.5 inches of rain in November, and the majority of this comes in the latter part of the month. Again, early November can just be a beautiful month. So parts of November could be mild or it could be cold. But as we progress through November, cloudy and rainy begin to dominate. I've seen snow in November, but this typically melts as soon as the sun comes up. December, January, February here are admittedly wet. This varies depending on whether we are in El Nino or La Nina winter, which without going into a lot of explanation is just a description of the type of predominant upper atmosphere direction of the weather from the wind that we have at the time. If we get snow, it happens in these months. It doesn't last long, usually gone within a day. Normal temperature here in the winter is 55 degrees, and it may be 55 degrees at both day and night. In the winter, things open up and we tend to get a lot of influence from the Pacific Ocean, which is mild and wet. We really don't have warm, clear days in the winter. If it's clear, it's generally colder. If it's cloudy and raining, it tends to be warmer. We get on the average of 0 to 4 days of snow here a winter. But as far as rain goes, it very rarely rains all day long. It's usually quite intermittent. We see a rain shower and it blows through, and then we have a few sunbreaks, and then we have another rain shower. So there are very few days, even in the winter, when it truly rains all day long. But all this rain fills our reservoirs. We don't worry about running out of water here. And if we do run out of water, it is a storage issue and not a lack of water issue, because so much water spills over all of our storage reservoirs during the winter. It just constantly spills over. But periodically we do have what they call water shortages, and these can bring on some restrictions. You may only be able to water your lawn depending on your address on an even or odd day. They ask that you not wash your car, that you run it through the car wash. I remember the last big restrictions that happened in the 80s. The city of Portland said, if it's brown, flush it down, and if it's yellow, let it mellow. But in response to this capacity problem that we saw for water, the municipalities adjusted to this and they punched some new wells to augment the reservoir system that we have. The majority of our water comes from up by Mount Hood in a reservoir called Bull Run. And so now we have wells. If that actually runs low, we can supplement our water with the well water. But we've not seen restrictions like these for quite a while. Unlike the desert Southwest, we are not running out of water. We just periodically have storage issues when consumption exceeds what we have stored. And this really is due to a lack of planning by the municipalities. They keep building homes and they keep getting more tax dollars for these new homes, but they sometimes neglect adding to the infrastructure to support these new homes. Okay, let's talk about now the weird things that happen in the winter. The winter apocalypse. Bum, 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 bum. The guys on the radio used to play that kind of a ditty because it seems like our winter weather always gets hyped up out of proportion. And but we do periodically get some extended periods of cold here. And these are Arctic events that push down from Canada and cover the whole northwestern part of the United States, and sometimes the whole United States, pushing even further south into areas like Chicago and areas in the Midwest. We can have temperatures below freezing for a week at a time, and sometimes this is associated with snow. But this happens about once every 10 years or so. And like the summer scorchers, a week later it's back to our regularly scheduled weather. Another weird weather that we get in the winter is what's called a pineapple express. And if you look at the satellite, this is a huge band of water/rain that shoots right for us and could hang over us for days at a time. And in this case, it's going to rain constantly, and we could see 5 to 6 inches of rain in a few days. You are not going to have any clearing during the day between showers. No, it's going to be raining constantly day and night. If we get strong winds in the winter, it is generally associated with these big storms from the Pacific. We have to go back to 1962 when we had what we call the Columbus Day storm. And we had winds here at the Portland airport of 116 miles an hour. But that was 60 years ago. And since we typically have winds in the 45 to 50 mile an hour range a few times in the winter. But these are not particularly damaging. Oh, your chairs in your backyard or your outdoor umbrella that covers your table might go shooting up into the air and blow into the neighbor's yard, or your garbage cans may go down the street if you don't bring them in before the storm. But this is generally the extent to the trouble that these storms bring, and we lose power periodically. So having candles or LED lanterns or something of this nature is prudent. And some people have backup generators if they have a very low tolerance to losing power. But frankly, there is no area that is totally safe and free from natural disasters in the country. But our natural disasters here tend to be pretty mild. Now, in the case of Florida, you have hurricanes every year. They're not a once in 10-year event. They are every year, and potentially multiple hurricanes. Same with the Midwest. You have tornadoes, and this goes down even into Texas. I can't tell you that we've never had a tornado here, because we have, but these are more or less funnel clouds, and they're not the F5s that we see that just take out whole neighborhoods for miles. No, these are funnel clouds that touch down and do a limited amount of damage in a small area. But I haven't seen one of these for about 10 years. Okay, let's go into the spring. Springtime is generally pretty wet, with periodic nice days. As we enter March, we are starting to get some nicer days, and we really appreciate these. Temperatures around 70 for the high and 55 for the low. The weird spring weather. We have been known to have temperatures in the 80s as early as March, but this is not typical, and I'm sure everybody enjoys that. We can also still have winter-type weather in March, but if it snows, it tends to be kind of like in November, where it snows overnight and then it's pretty much gone by morning. Moving further, April and May, the old saying, April showers, May flowers. Well, we live by that here. April is beautiful here, but as we progress through April and May, the number of days it rains is on the decrease. The trees are leafing out, flowering trees are coming into bloom, and this is a beautiful time of year to take advantage of a good weather day and go on a hike or a drive and just enjoy the scenery. You are going to be grateful for these nice days this time of year because you have endured more than your fair share of rain and clouds. So that's the year. And by the way, in February, this is an afterthought, we generally have a week of nice weather in February where we don't get any rain. So let's talk about the Portland-Vancouver area and how different parts of the area get varying amounts of rain for the year. We sit between two mountain ranges in the valley. To the west is the Coast Range near the Pacific Ocean, and to the east is the Cascade Range. The west slope of these mountain ranges can get 100 inches of rain a year, where the valley is more like 35. Some of the communities that are pushed right up against the mountains are located in rainforests. But where we sit in the valley, we get less rain. The wider parts of the valley, typically in the center of the wider parts of the valley, get less rain than in the narrower parts of the valley. And when you get east of the Cascade Range, they get a lot less rain than we do here, but that is outside of the Portland and Vancouver area. So the center of our valley, the Willamette Valley, the Tualatin Valley, the center of these valleys gets less rain than they get on the edges. So if you lived in rhododendron going up towards Mount Hood, you could get 70 inches of rain there. I hear from people periodically that, hey, we live in the banana belt, and these communities can receive less rain than average of, say, 25 inches a year. There are many microclimates here as elevation, little hills push up, whether you're living directly on the valley floor, whether you're living on the east side of a hill in the valley. There's just a ton of microclimates here. Hillsboro, for the reasons stated before, tends to be one of these less rain than average communities in the valley. Okay, let's talk about what you can do to escape the weather that we have here in the Portland-Vancouver area. Once you pass over the Cascade Range to the east, and we're only talking 2 hours, you come to the high desert, where you get about 11 inches of rain a year. But with an elevation of 3,000 foot plus, that's why they call it the high desert. In the winter it tends to be a little cooler, but in the summer it can be quite hot. This may be a great place to visit. If you look at the weather forecast for Portland versus, say, Madras or Redmond, you can pop over the hill and enjoy a completely different weather experience. And it may be raining in Portland. You can drive a couple hours and enjoy a sunny, nice day. The same is true with the Oregon coast, under 2 hours away. Escape from the valley heat of 90 degrees plus, and on the coast it's 65. After 60 years here, I've seen all the extremes. These don't concern me. In fact, I have come to welcome these extremes. We just have to plan for them. If it's going to be really hot, we want to be near the water or on the coast. If it's going to be cold, we may even want to take a trip up to Mount Hood and stay in Timberline Lodge and experience a 2 to 3 foot snow event overnight. If we go to the Oregon coast, the winds there coming off the ocean tend to be pretty steady. It's not quite as gusty as it is here in the valley. And so you can literally lean into the wind with your arms spread to about 45 degrees and not fall over. The wind just holds you up. And this is kind of a cool thing. You can watch 30-foot waves crashing onto the beach and the rocks, go out after a storm and beachcomb and find all kinds of things on the beach that weren't there the day before. You can experience the floods that happen during these big storms on the coast after maybe 10 inches of rain. Parts of the town are not drivable. In order to come back home, you may need to take another route. But this is all normal stuff to the residents on the Oregon coast. Have lunch at an oceanfront restaurant and watch the waves crashing and the sea foam billowing into the air. Just maybe don't have a hard schedule when you need to be back, because these can be interrupted by these weather anomalies and you may not be able to get home for a couple days. But mayhem can be fun. In the winter, there are winter sports available all winter long up on Mount Hood. There's downhill skiing at 5, I believe, ski lodges on Mount Hood. There's cross-country skiing available on trails that are a little bit less improved than the downhill skiing areas. There's snowshoeing. If you have snowmobiles, you can snowmobile the gravel roads that are covered with snow. There's a ton to do up there within a day to drive there, have fun, and drive back. You can take a trip to Hood River. Hood River is in the Columbia River National Scenic Area, the Gorge, and this is beautiful. As you drive from Portland to Hood River, you're going to go through a very green, wet to Hood River, which is kind of a transition zone to Eastern Oregon. And within an hour, you go from wet to dry. Hood River is a worldwide destination for windsurfing. The winds there are extremely predictable. Well, they may come from the east or they may come from the west, but the wind is predictable there in one direction or another. The Columbia River, because it's in a gorge, tends to be a wind magnet. I guess what I'm trying to say here is there is just so much to do to either escape the weather or to just see a totally different environment than you're used to at home within a couple hours of Portland. And if you stretch this out to an 8-hour drive to southeastern Oregon, to the Oregon Outback, to the Steens Mountains, to the Blue Mountains, there is so much to see in Oregon. But this is going to take more than a day. The Portland and Vancouver area is the perfect place to live, to be your hub of activity with limitless climates and things to do. Regardless what time of year it is, we have fewer natural disasters here than just about anywhere in the country. So I hope this expanded version of the weather that exists here in the Portland-Vancouver area is helpful. I plan on omitting from now on the short weather descriptions in my videos and directing people to this video instead. So remember, if you want your own moving experience with the longest standing native realtor YouTuber in the area, I am not clairvoyant, and unlike Facebook, I don't know who you are just because you clicked on my video. You have to call or text me. All of my contact information is below each video in the Show More section. And you know, Oregon and Washington are proud of their microbreweries, and we have more than our fair share here. But I won't be checking your vehicle for out-of-state beer. And until the next video, I'll catch you later.